Good day, everybody. This is Hargis, president of Oklahoma State University, and we're here for another episode of Inside OSU. And this is going to be a particularly interesting one for, I think, all of you, and certainly in my case, because I'm a big fan of Amazon. And we have with us one of the people that actually made Amazon what it's become and is becoming, and that's John Rossman. John, welcome. I know today you're with Alvarez and Marsal.
Yes.
But you were along actually riding in front of a lot of what's happened at Amazon over the years.
I had the opportunity in 2002 through 2005 to run a couple of businesses there, and it was a great opportunity.
Talk a little bit about your background. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Portland, Oregon, actually. So, and I went to Oregon State University, the other orange and black OSU, and studied industrial engineering there.
I see.
Yeah.
And when you came out, I think all of our, certainly the students, but I'm sure everybody would be interested in how you left as an industrial engineer and ended up at a place like Amazon.
Yeah, so I've always been interested in integration and ergonomics and how to make efficient processes. And I had the opportunity coming out of Oregon State to go to work for a consulting firm, a systems integration firm, Accenture. And I had 5 great years there and got to work on some leading edge technology and business engagements. And then I actually moved back to Portland and went to work for Arthur Andersen, which had a similar consulting organization, and made partner there, and again really focused on how to do re-engineering, how to improve operations with my clients. And then I had the opportunity to go to Amazon in 2002 and to help start the merchants program. So that's third party selling at Amazon.com, and got to launch and run that business. But again, the common threads that I've always had clients. I've always enjoyed helping other people's businesses make change, and I've always been involved in some form of integration, whether that's organizational integration, business model integration, systems integration. And so those are some of the common dots across my career.
Now take us back historically. When did Jeff Bezos start Amazon?
In 1994.
I see.
Yeah, so it's just been over 20 years, 21 years or so. Yeah.
And when you joined, you're what, 8th year of its birth?
That's right.
Since its birth?
Yep. It had IPO'd already, and the forecast of its demise had been told, and Amazon.bomb, I think, was kind of one of the headlines. And when I joined, they were just kind of pulling out from where everybody goes, okay, we can survive, don't know if we'll thrive, but we will survive. And one of the aspects that I drove was, at that point, Amazon sold basically books, music, and video. And so with the third-party program, other sellers selling it.
Were they doing the Amazon music and Amazon video, like Apple TV and all that?
No, at that point, you were literally selling the DVDs or the jeweled CD music cases, right? So this is old school retail.
Yeah, this isn't download.
No, not at all. This is well before then. And then in 2002, we launched the third-party business, and we expanded into 14 new categories over 2 years. So apparel and sporting goods and home and electronics and all of these other categories. And so today, Amazon, the retailer, really represents that breadth of retail categories.
When you talk about core competencies of companies, I've heard people say that Amazon is not a merchandising company. It's a software company. It's a cloud management company. Is that fair?
Well, I think it's a couple types of companies. I think certainly they are a technology company, and a big part of their business segment now is AWS or Amazon Web Services. But I'd also say they are a world-class logistics company and supply chain company, and they are getting to be a world-class content creation organization. And today it's such a conglomerate business model, but they tend to tie these things together. Today, the Prime program is one of the strategies where a lot of their different business programs kind of tie together in a flywheel manner.
What do you think is at the core of Amazon's success, and probably your own sense of what companies ought to do?
Well, they are willing to invent on behalf of the customer, and they, they're willing to change and disrupt, traditional roles within a value chain of an industry, and they have the confidence in their ability to create, whether it's the technology or the logistics program or whatever it is, to be able to scale something. And so they're pretty fearless in their ability to tackle big issues, and they've chosen those issues carefully, and they tend to build their own capability for it, and then they turn it inside out to have external clients on that, and that's kind of their platform part of their businesses. But I think at their heart, they consider themselves inventors and explorers.
I guess Jeff Bezos would, he must operate under certain principles that have morphed into these new businesses and new opportunities. But it also seems to have infiltrated the entire company.
Well, and so I wrote the book, The Amazon Way, 14 Leadership Principles, and those are not my principles, those are Amazon's principles, and a lot of those have come from Jeff, and those really are the guideposts for how decisions get made and what we value as an organization and how we think about critical situations. And they are a low bureaucracy, low overhead environment, and the way that they stay so fast and nimble is by giving people a shared view of how we make decisions.
You talk a lot about the evolution of the internet to and a browser-based kind of access point to the Internet of Things.
Right.
Can you give us a definition of that, the IoT, which we hear a lot about?
Yeah, so the Internet of Things is the pattern of putting sensors onto everyday objects, whether it's your shoes or your watch or a pump or whatever it is, collecting data or an event from that.
So
Fitbit is an example, a simpler example, I would say. And then collecting that data to be able to do some type of optimization or adjustment relative to it, right? And the more devices and the more sensors you have coming in, the broader the view of the network is, and so the more interesting observations and the more interesting optimizations you can make. And so the opportunity with consumers, I think, is interesting, but I think the opportunity in more everyday businesses, industrial businesses, B2B businesses, where you can drive operational improvements and you can build new business models using that IoT pattern is a big opportunity.
What would be an example? I know Fitbit's a simplistic example, but kind of take us through what
I mean, I think a more maybe elaborate one would be, General Rolls-Royce and the jet engines that they're creating have thousands of sensors on them, and they're able to have very in-depth operating information on the status of that engine. When maintenance is needed, they can do predictive maintenance. And they're getting to a point where instead of selling or leasing an engine to an airliner, they actually sell airlift by the hour. And so that's an as-a-service business model. And so it gives them a very close customer relationship. They're an operating partner at that point, not a vendor. And but yet it takes all that real-time data and then the ability to optimize around it for them to make that transition.
I think you wrote in your book, in fact, I'll promote your book here, this followed the Amazon Way. Now it's the Amazon Way on IoT.
Yes.
You talk in here about the importance of principles, and that there's lots of methods, but there's only a few principles, few key principles. What are those?
Well, it depends on the organization and the company. For A&M, those principles are about independence, focusing on value creation for our company, never compromising your independence for financial benefit, and having fun in the work that you do because it's so much of your life. For Amazon, I think those principles are slightly different, and those are more about obsessing on the customer and being an inventor and an explorer and driving ownership. And I think that's the opportunity for most companies, is to gain clarity and have real guideposts or strategies or principles for how do we make decisions when things are tough. And because if you can get those straight, then you can let your team run faster with less governance, with less oversight, with less bureaucracy. And I think that's the magic of a company like Amazon, is they've really figured out how do we make decisions, and they've articulated them, and they train the organization in them, and they hire to them, and so they're able to operate faster than most companies because of that.
You talk in here also about connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes it's hard to see the dots, to connect them. How do you?
Well, yeah, I reference a speech that Steve Jobs gave, a commencement speech, and he talked that you can only see the dots looking back, right? And that sometimes those experiences in your life where you don't really recognize where it's leading, but going forward, it's an important experience or skill that you gain that helps bring it all together for you. And I am a big believer in cross-disciplinary experiences and cross-disciplinary teams to be able to bring different points of view and different skill sets into a situation. And I think it's important for people to get lots of different experiences. And sometimes you understand where that's going to lead to, and sometimes you don't.
You ever worked for higher education institutions?
I have not, no.
Well, you're a product of
Yes.
of a very fine higher education institution. I would say that higher education is going through a state of flux now. And if you were walking in on higher education, how do some of these principles help inform us in higher education?
Well, I think recognizing who your customer is and what you're trying to accomplish for that individual.
And we'll say our customer is the student, the parents, of course, who often are the ones paying, but also employers are our
Absolutely.
customers.
Yeah, and so that's exactly where I was going to go, which is, creating, job-ready skills is I think the essential, notion. And I think it's changed dramatically from when I went to school, that notion of really helping students and kids be successful, because it's not easy and there's many different paths. And this notion of there's one path to success, I think is kind of the old school product, and there's many different pathways.
We're really glad to have you here at Oklahoma State. I know everybody's excited.
The honor's mine, and I hope I give people not just some ideas, but some real tactics that they can use to, have a higher sense of customer empathy, to have more accountability, to measure things differently, and to operate like a company like Amazon operates.
And you talk about moving rapidly.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another issue in higher education.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think I'm thinking about what does digital really mean? And if I had to boil digital down to one word, I really think it is two words. I would say speed and agility. And so speed is just the velocity you're traveling at, and agility is the ability to react and adjust quickly. And I think that's what digital really means for companies. It's not about the technology. It's not about a mobile phone. It's about the ability to be fast and be able to react to market opportunities.
Well, in fact, you use an example of a point guard in your book here.
Yeah.
About all of the things they have to be ready for.
That's right. And you never know how one situation might set you up for another situation. So while you want to focus intently on that particular project or program that you're working on, you want to do it with your head up, and you want to do it in an extensible manner so that you could take the next step and move beyond it.
Well, we really appreciate it. This has gone rapidly as well. But
Super.
Thank you very much for taking time to talk to us. And I know our students and our customers in our two major cities have appreciated your.
Well, you've
your
treated
visit.
me extremely well, and I do appreciate it.
Well, great. Thank you,
you.
John. Well, that's another episode of Inside OSU. So we hope you tune in next time. And I'm Burns Hargis saying, go Pokes.